Israel's Western allies are hoping it does not come down to a wider war. But what are they doing to stop an escalation? Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been told to exercise restraint, to take the win, as US President Joe Biden put it, to not respond by escalating. That was the French President Emmanuel Macron's advice to Netanyahu. Be smart, said UK's Foreign Secretary David Cameron, who, by the way, has flown down to meet Netanyahu and counsel him. What about Iran? Israel's Western allies want to deter Iran. They also want to show the world they are punishing Iran for Sunday's attack. So the plan basically is to beat Tehran with sanctions. But then, will the two plans work? Let's start with the plan to advise peace to Netanyahu, to ask him to exercise restraint. Now, that plan is ill-fated from the start. Netanyahu wants political survival, not diplomatic solutions. He wants a wider war, not restraint. Netanyahu made this clear in his meeting with David Cameron in Jerusalem today. Bibi said, and I'm quoting here, "I want to make it clear, we will make our own decisions. In other words, I am not interested in the call for restraint." Perhaps why he was reportedly dodging calls from the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. And during today's meeting, Cameron had told Netanyahu to do as little as possible to not escalate. That advice clearly fell on deaf ears. Coming to the plan of sanctioning Iran now, it's 2024 and sanctions simply do not work. And the West should know best. Together, the US, the UK and the EU, along with their allies, have imposed over 16,500 sanctions on Russia. You heard that right, 16,500. That's the number of sanctions that were slapped on Russia for invading Ukraine. But then guess what? The Russian economy is doing just fine. Its gas and oil sales are strong. Sure, Western companies like McDonald's and Coca-Cola left Russia, but now similar burgers and fries are being sold under new brands. McDonald's-like burger, for example, is being sold by a Russian burger company named Vkusno and Tochka, meaning tasty, and that's it. No sanctions, no complications. Europe also sanctioned Russian oil only to buy the same Russian oil from other sources. We've been telling you about this. The West knows sanctions have enough loopholes because it has been abusing them. So then why is it fooling the world with fresh sanctions on Iran? Because that's the plan, the US says. It will impose new sanctions. It will target Iranian missile and drone program, also the Revolutionary Guard and Defense Ministry. We don't have the details of these proposed sanctions, but we do have a question. How exactly does the US expect these sanctions to even work? Take Iran's drone program, for instance. Quick general knowledge question. Which country has recently started using and buying a lot of Iranian drones? Russia. Does the West expect sanctioned Russia to abide by sanctions imposed on Iran? These countries are currently using these drones against US allies in West Asia and Europe. I'm sure you know that the US already has a long list of sanctions on Iran. Between 2018 and 2021, the Trump administration imposed more than 1,500 sanctions on Iran. It also sanctioned Iran's national oil company. Sanctions were also imposed on foreign companies and individuals who did business with Iran. They were all aimed at imposing what Trump liked to call maximum pressure on Iran. But then what was the result? Iran is exporting an average of 1.61 million barrels of crude per day. 1.61 million barrels. Iran's oil exports have reached a 5-year high. China, for that matter, has increased its imports of Iranian oil. Many Chinese companies are paying for Iranian crude in yuan. Tankers carrying Iranian oil know how to navigate sanctions. They are engaging in ship-to-ship transfer of oil. They are falsifying location data or just completely going off the radar to evade sanctions. And here's the thing, even if the US wants, it cannot afford to tighten the grip around Iranian oil. We told you why yesterday. You see, by slapping further sanctions on Iranian oil or by ensuring the implementation of the existing sanctions on Iranian oil, the US risks adding to the rising oil prices. Remember, Biden faces elections in November. He simply cannot afford to anger voters. He also cannot afford to antagonize China, which is the biggest buyer of Iranian oil. The reason why I'm emphasizing on oil with regard to sanctions here is because oil is one of the biggest contributors to the Iranian GDP. So is gas. Meaning, if US and Israel's Western allies really want to punish Iran or deter Iran from a war, they will want to hit oil or threaten Iran's oil sector because that is where it hurts Iranian economy the most. But like I just told you, Israel's Western allies can do little to nothing here. Sanctions are passé. They do not work in these times. Also, in an election year, you cannot afford to risk playing with oil prices. You would rather let down an ally or score another geopolitical self-goal. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.